Hey Telly Lovers, happy holidays, and welcome back to another installment of Tea and Telly, a brand new channel devoted to all things British television. Okay, I know you're wondering why today we're discussing a movie on a channel devoted to the telly. Well, I agree. Normally I wouldn't be caught dead watching a sappy rom-com, but it's Christmas, and so there it is. Love Actually is such a classic for Anglophile telly lovers that the holiday season just wouldn't be complete without seeing it. And it's on the telly pretty much all month, so it counts as TV, right? So here we go. In today's video, I'm going to cover what I think are the 10 best scenes in this movie, and they're probably not what you'd expect, and not necessarily the most romantic scenes in the movie either, but I found them memorable and even a little touching. If you haven't seen this movie yet, be forewarned there are spoilers sprinkled throughout this video. And now, grab that tin of Christmas cookies, pour yourself a cuppa, and let's count down together. Coming in at number 10, in this scene, Billy Mack leaves a much-anticipated party at Elton John's house to seek out his manager Joe. What follows is a super awkward admission for Billy Mack that he realizes at the end of the day, Joe is his only true family. As he puts it, "It grieves me to say it, but the people I love is, in fact, you." Joe is confused at first, and then you see his lip quiver in just the slightest bit when he realizes Billy Mack is being genuine. They hug it out and proceed with some drinks and porn. I have to admit, I never quite liked the character of Billy Mack, but I really like the heartfelt bromance in this scene. Because generally Billy Mack is shown as a personality and he's up on a screen or a stage in most of the scenes of the movie, it's really unexpected to see a more personal side of him. And frankly, it's nice to see him be vulnerable and real for a hot second. Number 9. Now, this is definitely one of the more lewd scenes in the movie, but just hear me out. I'm talking about the scene where Mia makes a pass for the first time to Harry, her boss. Mia describes that she's booked a place for the company holiday party that has dark spots for doing evil deeds, and then she assumes a most unladylike posture. It's so direct and yet so subtle at the same time. Harry would have been blind to miss it, but yet because it takes place in the office, it's suggestive in a way that only Harry can see. I love that you can see the confusion and the dilemma come across Harry's face, like he doesn't know what to do with this information now. Number 8. In this scene, David, as the Prime Minister, is holding a press conference with the President of the United States. Just before this, the President pretty much sexually harassed David's secretary and love interest, Natalie. Coming off the heels of that, you can see the fire coming into David in this scene. He's no longer putting up with the American president's bravado, even though earlier he refused to challenge him. It's as if defending Natalie's honor has finally given him a backbone. In a surprising turn, at the last moment he marks his territory on live TV, much to the astonishment of his staff and to Natalie herself. What I liked about this was how protective David is toward both his country and toward Natalie. Number 7. Right, well, this one will hardly surprise you. This is the adorable scene where Daniel gently confronts his stepson Sam. He's concerned because they're both grieving the death of Sam's mother. Daniel asks Sam if he's having trouble at school or being bullied, fearing there's an awful problem lurking under the surface. Sam divulges that yes, he is still bereaved and still misses his mom, but he's also preoccupied with another problem. He is in love. I love the relief in Daniel's face here. And when he asks Sam, "Aren't you a bit too young to be in love?" Sam's reaction is priceless. With a puzzled look, he says innocently, "No, what could be worse than the total agony of being in love?" Out of the mouth of babes. Number 6. This is a short scene, but it's just so touching and so effective. Prior to the scene, we see Sarah sparking a new relationship with her coworker Carl after a couple years of pining away from afar. Unfortunately, just as quickly, things fall apart between them as it becomes evident that Sarah is responsible for her brother, who struggles with mental health issues and lives in a psychiatric hospital. Sarah's devotion to him is remarkable, and he is clearly her first priority. In this scene, we see Sarah visiting her brother, and we get a glimpse into his psychosis. He raises his arm to strike her, and she catches him just in time. She says to him, "Don't do that, my darling," over and over again. She's firm and calm, but also tender and loving. Number 5. The biggest love story in this movie is the relationship between David and Natalie. If I haven't mentioned it yet, I'm not much of a romance fan, and I wasn't as gooey over this relationship as most viewers. But what I do love seeing is David as the Prime Minister. In this scene, he's knocking on doors all over Natalie's neighborhood looking for her. which, side note, is kind of weird since he's the prime minister. Can't he just call MI6 or something? Anyway, when his constituents open their doors to see their elected leaders standing on their doorsteps, their reactions are so sweet. But the most adorable is when these three little girls, evidently playing dress up, ask the most powerfully elected official in the land to sing a Christmas carol. David and his bodyguard bust out with Good King Wenceslas, and the three little girls just get down with the little dance party. So darling. Number 4, Juliet and Peter get married in one of the first scenes of the movie, and oh, it's one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie. After exchanging their vows, they walk down the aisle to the tune of All You Need Is Love by the Beatles, when suddenly they hear this soft singing. They find a choir and Lynn and David Hall singing, and soon the song is punctuated by their guests, who pop up from the pews playing their own instruments. Juliet and Peter wonder who organized all of this and look back to the best man, Mark. He denies all responsibility, but it's really obvious that he's behind the performance. It's a festive and lovely gesture to the newlyweds from their loved ones, and Peter and Juliet are delighted by the surprise send-off. But what I think is most heartwarming in the scene is that the viewer later realizes that Mark took the extra step to make the ceremony so special, not just because Peter is his best mate, but also because of his love for Juliet. Number 3, now everyone will remember this scene, which kicks off the climactic conclusion of the movie. David has had Natalie reassigned after realizing he was catching feelings for her. One of his staff, presumably his assistant Annie, has selected a sample of Christmas cards from his constituents for him to read. Watching this the first time, you kind of just get swept away when he eventually reads Natalie's card, and then the scenes that follow where they finally make their feelings known to each other. However, going back, I quickly realized that the sticky note on top of the card and realized that all the cards had already been opened. So Annie, or whoever arranged the cards ahead of time, would deliberately have put Natalie's card in the pile for David to read. Was Annie playing a Christmas Cupid here? I don't know. She was pretty much the only witness to the chemistry that David and Natalie shared, so I'm going to go with that. Number 2. If you didn't get misty-eyed during this scene, I don't even know you anymore. Everyone can relate to the pain of betrayal by a loved one. In this scene, Karen is really anticipating the first romantic gift from Harry in ages. She's already on to the fact that he purchased a gold necklace, but when she opens her present from him, gosh, the look on her face is just shattering. She realizes he gave the necklace to another woman, probably his secretary Mia, who she had had some suspicions about at the holiday party. She makes an excuse to be alone and puts on Both Sides Now from the Joni Mitchell CD he gifted her, and she just cries silently. She wipes her tears, straightens up the bed, and then walks out to get her family off to the school Christmas play. That brave face she puts on when her heart is broken is just gutting, and just so well done. I think it's still one of my favorite scenes. And number 1, and now for my favorite scene in this movie. When you think of Jamie and Aurelia, you think of their fairy tale ending where Jamie becomes fluent enough in Portuguese to ask her father for her hand in marriage, and then he proposes to her in the restaurant where she works. It's all very, yeah. It's a bit much for me, but what I appreciated more was this scene. Now, going back a little bit, when they first meet, Jamie and Aurelia can't understand each other due to their language barrier. As a result, they speak around each other a lot in their respective languages. Even though you can sense there's some attraction there, they're never really speaking at each other or to each other. After the lake scene where they jump into the pond to grab Jamie's writing that's blown in, they really start to talk to each other. They have a language barrier still, but they're trying to connect, and that makes all the difference. It's still superficial and still a little silly, but it's a start. And after all, isn't that how love works? You start at different points and find a common love language and use that to build a foundation. Well, those are my top 10 favorite scenes from Love Actually. Thanks for joining along with me. As you can see, the scenes that stood out for me weren't necessarily the ones where there's a grand profession of love or a big plot event occurring. Those are fine enough, but in an otherwise kind of cheesy holiday movie, the ones that made me feel the true holiday spirit are the understated scenes that remind me of the deeper and more realistic aspects of love. The quiet devotion, the sacrifice, the humor, and yeah, sometimes the bittersweetness that's just as much a part of love as the sappy bits. After all, that's what makes love so precious and so special. And in a movie like Love Actually, which in my opinion hasn't aged very well and has a lot of problematic elements, I like to think that moments like these make the movie a little less cringeworthy. And what are your favorite moments from Love Actually? Drop a line in the comments below and tell me what I've missed in my roundup. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, do take a moment to hit like on this video and to subscribe to my channel so that you'll be ready for more smashing new videos about all things British television. Thanks a million, happy holidays, and a big ta until next time.